Hi, Dyslexic Genius here, Brett Hurt. I'm back on the Victor 1. My phone number is 864-236-1680, or you can email me at dyslexicgeniushurt@gmail.com. What's wrong with the Vic 1 is the pin that goes through the spindle shaft, and this is your spindle shaft on a phonograph, and they all have a hardened pin that goes through this hole, and that's the pin that I pulled out, which is a nail. But they're hardened. And when you look at this closely, you'll see that they cut the end off with a pair of dikes, if you open that up like that. And then if you stick it into the hole, and it shouldn't fit in like that, it's bent.
Yeah,
you can see how this is bent off. So what you have to do, and you see how easy this goes in. This has to go in really tight, really, really tight. I use a hardened pin like this, and I use the kind with a slot in it because it's round, and then there's this gap like right here. So when you put it in, that gap closes up and it's in for good. It's really tight. But you also have to remember when you're putting in a pin that here's the turntable off the Vic 1. You have to have it small enough to fit in these two slots because this is the turntable, and that comes down, and then spindle shaft's here, and it hits the pin. Well, if this is boogered up and it's a nail, like somebody put in here, then the turntable is going to wobble. We have video on balancing your turntable, but you're always going to have a wobble because of the pin. It's always setting the turntable off. And you always want to take the pin like this one and put it in the slot and make sure there's a little play, and it just pops on there.
Well, the idea of the nail was good.
Oh, the idea of the nail was really good, but somebody in its life tried to fix the Victrola, and, we're doing this with a hacksaw and a file. And
how will you get that in there?
I will set this in here, and then I will use my punch block, and I will knock it in. And if my angel will just hold a minute, I'll show you the punch block and why we use a punch block. That's a punch block. So if you're knocking the pin out with a punch, you can hold it here and then punch it out. But this is cut at 45 degrees. So what that does is you set it in here, and now the spindle shaft or any round shaft you're using to knock something out, say, i.e., I have to knock this pin out that's pressed in here, then you'll set it in here the same way and knock the pin out. And this makes it much easier to handle. You get it down, you take a hammer and you kind of knock it down, and then you come in here and you go boop, and it pops out.
How are you putting it in?
Putting it in, you'll set the pin in like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would just tap it in like that.
Did you make that round
No,
thing?
I bought this. And you can find these punch blocks on Amazon, under $15. And they're absolutely a lifesaver. This hobby's a lot of fun, and that's my tip for the day.